everybody, welcome to another episode of The Comic Source. I'm your host, Jace. This is your Indie Spotlight for the week of January 15th, 2022. I know it's coming out super late, a week late. I recorded it the Tuesday before to drop on Wednesday when all the books came out. For some reason, my mic did not record the audio. Not sure why. I had it plugged in, I had it turned on. When I recorded with Rocky the next time, I was having the same issue. Just had to keep unplugging it and plugging it back in before it finally worked. But anyway, it was late. I didn't have it in me to record it again that night, and then I kept hoping Rocky would be able to join me. And it just got later and later, and I never ended up re-recording it. It's like, when I recorded it solo, it was a good episode, and it's just so frustrating that it's just lost forever. But anyway, even though it's coming out a week late, I thought it was worth coming in and doing it again really quickly because there are some great books that came out last week. So I'm going to go through them really quickly, and then obviously our DC Spotlight for the week of January 22nd is on Rocky's channel, Comic Space Boom, ! Over on YouTube. Once you're there, like, comment, subscribe, ring that notification bell so you know when new content is coming out. Obviously, if you're checking this out on the Comic Source YouTube channel, we appreciate it. Like, comment, subscribe as well. Let me know what indie books you're reading that are amazing, and be sure you ring that notification bell because we have tons of content that comes out on the Comic Source YouTube channel, including creator interviews and comic convention coverage and what have you. So if you prefer to listen audio only, maybe you want to listen while you're working out or driving in the car, on the subway, what have you, the Comic Source is available on all the podcasting platforms. Just go to whatever your favorite podcast platform or app is, do a search for the Comic Source and subscribe. And not only will you have access to all the new episodes as they come out, but there's getting close to 3,000 previous episodes that you can go and check out. So lots of back catalog for you to enjoy. All right, that being said, let me go ahead and talk about the first book I'm going to chat about from last week. I had, speaking of interviews, I had Heath Corson on to talk about this book when it first dropped, or it might have been before Final Order Cutoff was announced. I can't remember exactly what the timing was, but it's in the world of Minor Threats. It's called Brood, and it's basically, if you're familiar with the Wes Anderson film Royal Tenenbaums, where Gene Hackman plays Royal Tenenbaum, this patriarch of a family who are kind of weird and just sort of out there, and it's got some esoteric ideas, and it's all about their relationships, the familiar relationships, and how strange they are. Well, this is the same thing, only kind of twisted on its head because it's in, as I said, the Minor Threats universe, and we have this supervillain, genius, sort of a Lex Luthor type, or maybe, yeah, I guess that's the best way to put it, right? Because he's a genius, but he also gets out there and fights himself, kind of like Luthor of the Copper Age with the green battle suit and what have you. And I guess the modern Luthor's done that a little bit in Action Comics and the Dan Jurgens run most recently. But be that as it may, his name is Napoleon Archimedes, and when we checked out the first issue, we had a chance to kind of see who he was and what he was about, and his relationship with his children, because, as I said, that's what Royal Tenenbaums is about, those relationships with his children and what have you. And that's really what this book is about as well. It's got the Minor Threats fun. When I had Jordan Blum on and Heath Corson to talk about this, we talked about overall the Minor Threats universe being sort of comics for veteran comic readers. Not that they're trying to exclude anyone. New readers can pick it up as well. But when you've read kind of the same old stories, same old tropes, they can do kind of shorthand. Everything doesn't have to be explained because you've read so many comics in your life, you kind of get it, right? And so that's what we have here with this Napoleon Archimedes, who has a sort of a Superman analog, the Searcher, who he fights against. And years of fighting against her, he's dying of like this cellular degeneration, almost like this supercharged cancer, if you will. And he's trying to find a cure, and there's that going on, but he doesn't want to tell his family. It gets revealed to his family in the second issue. But he also has a daughter who, he has two sons. His oldest son, he wants him to follow in his footsteps. he doesn't want to follow in his footsteps. He's actually a cop. He wants to do well. The youngest son is he's got these magical powers and he's really good at it. But his dad, Napoleon Archimedes, is only focused on science, so he kind of looks down on that. And then there's the daughter, who really is the one who would most likely be able to follow in Napoleon Archimedes' footsteps. He's the one that is most similar to her, or she's the one that's most similar to him. But he doesn't recognize it because he's got these misogynistic tendencies, so he doesn't see it, because she's just a girl. And so she's constantly trying to prove herself. And so she, in this issue, plots a heist to get part of the meteor that was in the ship that brought the searcher here. She thinks she might be able to find a cure for her father, and then he'll finally love her, that old trope kind of thing. So the second issue here actually starts off with the children discovering that their father is Napoleon Archimedes. That's why he's been absent so much of their lives and what have you. So it's fantastic. The art is gorgeous by I.N.J. Colbard. Heath Corson does the writing. Patton Oswalt and Jordan Blum are also credited with plot, so they're helping plot this story along with Heath Corson. So it's a really great book. It's really fun. I highly recommend it. Nate Picos handles the lettering. He does a great job as well. You see, we have some automatons here, and their dialogue looks a little different, what have you. So it's really hard. This is a hard book to kind of describe. I don't really want to give any more away than I already have. It's a book that you need to read because it's all about the relationships, again, between these siblings, between the siblings and their father, and then also their mother, who's this super assassin, who's very formidable and what have you, and she tries to kind of keep the peace, and she has deep love for Napoleon Archimedes, but she understands his foibles and how his relationship with his kids aren't. She doesn't see the kids the way that she does. She kind of sees him with the mother's eyes, where she's very loving and sees the best in them, whereas he sees only their failings in a lot of ways. We get a look at the searcher here on this page, the splash page, who again is the Superman analog in the story. So again, I highly recommend it. It's a lot of fun. All the Minor Threats books are really great, and if you're so inclined, I definitely would suggest that you check them out. So that does it for the book that we're going to talk about in detail first. Next up, we have Finders Keepers. Now, again, I was lucky enough to have a chance to talk to their creative team for this book, while the artist, who is Skylar Patridge. So she came on and she talked about it. The writer, Vita Ayala, was unable to make it when we talked, but this is in the Horizon Experiment imprint that Pornsak Pichachot launched over at Image. And I did see some people, they were kind of complaining about kind of the format, and I get it, because the whole idea was, let's take concepts that you've seen before. Specifically, we've had stories about a James Bond type character, a Constantine type character that's Muslim. The James Bond character is Chinese instead of being British. Evil Dead, but starring black nerds, blurs, instead of white teenagers in a cabin in the woods. And for this one, it's Indiana Jones. But what if Indiana Jones was a brown woman, and a reverse Indiana Jones, instead of stealing from Aboriginal or Native peoples, stealing their treasures and artifacts and putting them in museums or in the hands of private collectors? What if we took those items from the museum, if we stole them from the museum, pulled off some heists, private collectors, what have you, and returned them to the people that they belong to, they rightfully belong to? That's the idea here. And so I get it. Like, the whole idea of putting out the first issue of each of these series, and then if any of them are popular enough, that they would continue. But I've seen some people complain, God, it's too much story, stuffed into one issue and what have you. And I get it. Like, that's sort of an inherent challenge of what these creators set up for themselves, because you have to give enough in the first issue, enough of a complete story, to give people an idea of what the story's about, to see if it wants to continue. So I get it. Like, it's not the best, it's not the most ideal. You know, maybe they should have made them longer, but at the same time, this is creator owned. They're funding it themselves. It's a little more of a challenge. So as I said, Vita Ayala is the writer on this. Artist is Skylar Patridge. We have colors by Jason Wordy and letters by Becca Carey. So, like I mentioned, reverse Indiana Jones. We meet this character, Inez. She has always wanted to be an archaeologist. You know, Indiana Jones is not specifically mentioned, probably for, you know, copyright reasons or what have you. But we see her, you know, early on. Not sure why it's not loading here. But we see her early on, and she is talking about going away to the university. She's from Puerto Rico. She's Puerto Rican. And she's talking to her grandmother and what have you. And we sort of follow along. We get these, it almost reminds me of what Jonathan Hickman does at times. We get these like text pages. So we get the idea that she's graduated. She's applying for an internship. And when she does that, she ends up at a museum, and she's kind of a peon. And she's kind of exposed to, I don't want to say the corruption, but just the way things are done. Go listen to the interview with Skylar. She talks about how Vita and her, they're not, you know, condemning museums. Museums have a role, have a place, but sometimes Native American peoples or Native peoples are exploited. These artifacts are not being taken to be preserved. They're being taken to be exploited and shown off, and they are stolen in a lot of ways. So, but when Inez is in this world, becomes exposed to it, she sort of realizes that, especially because there's an artifact that's being held by this private collector, who, you know, he definitely doesn't have the right sort of attitude about it. You know, he utters the line "finders keepers." You know, he doesn't care. He only cares about the prestige of having all these artifacts and what it means, you know, for him and how it makes him look better in his own eyes and what have you. So ultimately, she decides to steal it and return it back to the island of Puerto Rico, the place where it rightfully belongs. So I think it's an interesting story. I love the heist aspect of it. Skylar talked about that as well when we chatted. If this gets to continue, they get to do more in the way of heist, because this one's sort of not really planned out. You know, Inez is a very smart individual. So hopefully it continues and we get to see more. I'd love to see some more of these heists. I think the art is really fantastic from Skylar as well. So, yeah, if you're so inclined, I do recommend checking it out. I thought it was a lot of fun. It might be my favorite of the Horizon experiments. I don't know. I really liked Manchurian. That was the James Bond one as well. Thought the Muslim Constantine was pretty good too. So anyway, definitely worth your time if you want to check it out. All right, up next, Minor Arcana number 5. This is from writer Jeff Lemire. He's handling the writing duties as well as the artwork. You know, kind of similar to his Sweet Tooth or Fish Flies. Colors are by Patricio Del Pesce, and letters are by Steve Wands. We've been covering, excuse me, we've been covering all the issues of this as it's come out. It's a story of this girl, Teresa. She's come back to her hometown. Doesn't have a great relationship with her mother. Her father has passed away years ago. Her mother, she came back ostensibly to help her mother because her mother has cancer. But she doesn't get along with her mother. You know, she kind of ran away because she didn't get along with her mother and her father was gone. She has alcohol addiction issues. She also had a same-sex relationship with a female. Apparently, Teresa's a lesbian. And that ended badly, and that kind of forced her out as well. But her mother makes her living as a fortune teller, and Teresa's always believed it to be a bunch of hokum, basically. But she learns in the first issue that she might actually have supernatural powers when she does a tarot card reading. And so she's trying to navigate that and understand what that means while trying to get back on her feet, trying to, you know, reestablish relationships, and still missing her dad, you know, and being back in the place where she grew up and seeing him all the time. So in this particular issue, we actually get kind of the story of her father, and we see that he's experiencing something. It's 1976, and we see that he's experienced something supernatural as well. and what that is and how it might tie into what Teresa's seeing now and these abilities that apparently she has is really interesting. So Teresa doesn't really show up too much in this particular issue. It really focuses on her father. But what that does is it provides so much context, first of all, for what might be happening to Teresa, but also for who Teresa is, like why she's the way she is, how important her father was to her, and what have you. Because here's the thing. While her father is experiencing this sort of malaise, sort of spiritually, but it's not anything he can put his finger on, and he goes home at night to his wife and daughter, and he's like, I should be happy, I should be content. Why does it feel like there's something missing? But this wife here that he's with, this is not Teresa's mother. This is not the fortune teller that we saw in the first couple issues. And also he calls his daughter Vicky here. So obviously it's not Teresa. So as we go along and he's having these visions and this spiritual malaise like I talked about, he goes out one night to the bar and he has some shots, and this woman that always is hitting on him, he gives into temptation. And he goes to the Edgewater hotel with her, and they have a fling. And you could tell this woman wants more, and he's like, no, it was a one-time thing. And then he gets in an accident on the way home, and he feels that the malaise has lifted. He's like, oh, that's what it was. Everything that I was feeling, it was because this horrible thing was coming. It was this accident, and I got in this accident. I wrecked my truck, but I survived it. And this, I feel like this weight has been lifted, and now things are going to go back to normal. And I can, forget that I cheated on my wife or whatever. But when he looks over at the other car that was involved in the accident, he realizes the woman is dead. And so he feels responsible for that. So I think the woman that he had the fling with here, I think that's Teresa's mom. I think Teresa is sort of illegitimate, for lack of a better term. So I'm sure that factors into her anger issues and her self-esteem issues and what have you as well. That's why she misses her dad so much. She probably didn't, even when he was there, and she, before he died when she was little, she probably didn't get to see him very much or what have you. So I'm sure all that'll be fleshed out. But this book is all about the relationships. It's all about character. I think Jeff Lemire is probably the one that handles this human frailty and character work like this maybe better than anyone in comics. Working today, I've said that about his JSA book that's just started and how it's all about relationships as well. The art, if you like Jeff Lemire art, this is classic Lemire. Great emotion in the faces and really strong storytelling from panel to panel and what have you. So definitely recommend it. Minor Arcana comes out from Boom. Just gorgeous. And the hotel, last thing I'll mention here, the hotel that her father has this fling in is the same hotel that's abandoned in current time and seems to be central of like supernatural stuff. And it's where a lot of times where the center of Teresa's visions are. Like she walks down the hallway of this hotel and opens a door to a room and goes into the room and finds herself wherever, in the afterlife or viewing whatever she needs to view for the person that wants their fortune told. So clearly there's a connection with the hotel and her father as well. So we'll see how that plays out in the long run. But again, Minor Arcana, from the people that I've heard talk about it, it's gotten really, really great reviews. But I feel like I'm not hearing enough people talk about it for how good it is. So if you're so inclined, I would suggest you check it out. So all right, next book we're going to talk about is Skin Police. This is the final issue of Skin Police for now, the final issue of Volume 1, I guess you'd say. It's written by Jordan Thomas. We have art here by Daniel Gattei, colors by Jason Wordie, and letters and design by Jeff Powell. You get a little blurb here, 2142. It talks about this sterility pandemic and how the birth rates really dropped through the roof, or through the floor, rather, in 2142. And because of that, people started illegally cloning others. And the problem is that 3 out of every 4 clones do what's called pop, where they become, they just have this psychotic break, and they go on these murderous rampages. So, this capture duplicate identification and capture division was established. Everybody else just calls them the skin police. And they basically go out and try to find any dupe before it pops, and they destroy it because they don't even see it as a person. It's just property to them. So the story has been following this very decorated skin police officer called Ekis. While he's out there trying to stop these dupes from popping. Meanwhile, there was a dupe that escaped from him in the first issue and managed to find sort of a duplicate underground. And they put her in a room. They put her in a straitjacket. They put her in a room. They allow her to pop, and then they medicate her after. And that's new information for a lot of people. And in this issue, it's kind of explored. Because they captured one of the dupes, killed one of the dupes there, and they're like, yeah, this dupe is post pop, and they've all been killed because again they go on these murderous rampages. They didn't even think it was possible for one of these a dupe that's popped to be like walking around like a regular person. So what they find out here is this dupe has been taking medication. So it's possible, and this is what happens to the girl that escaped in the first issue. She pops. They put her in a room so she doesn't hurt anybody, and then after she pops, they give her medication, and she's able to regulate the psychotic urges or what have you. She's like a regular person. And so, there's like, this is not what people have been told. Who's hiding this? Do the skin police care? Like, there's all that going on. Also, in the first couple of pages, we see there's like a gladiatorial location where they're getting dupes to fight against each other. Obviously, that's horrific as well. So the skin police find out that there's this fight club for dupes, if you will, and also the word gets out to the dupe underground that these dupes are being exploited. So they're sort of on a collision course. The other thing that's happening is that medication that the dupe underground is using, they're running out of resources. They're not going to have enough resources to continue making that medication. So who gets it? How do you make it last? They need more resources. They need more help to continue to allow these dupes that are part of the underground to live sort of normal life, as normal as you can, living literally underground in hiding, what have you. So it's a bit of a collision course here. The Ekis gets some information, some secret information. Last issue, we saw his old partner. She's in a coma. Apparently, she was injured while trying to stop some dupes. And I think the underground knew that she had some information and they wanted to get it, so they went to where she was in the hospital. Ekis was there. There was a confrontation. That's how he killed that dupe and found out about the dupes being medicated. And he ends up getting his hands on the information that his partner was hiding. And it seems to be, hey, maybe there's a conspiracy going on about, the dupes being able to survive post-pop with medication, what's going on or whatever. So government conspiracy type stuff, perhaps. But before he has a chance to, really examine that, that's when he finds out, hey, they're doing a raid on this underground dupe fight club. And so he heads there. There's a confrontation with the underground, big battle. And it all leads to this final page, which is a big twist. And we know Skin Police is coming back later this year, but not until the fall. So what an incredible way to end the story of Volume 1 here by Jordan Thomas and Daniel Gattei, because as Ekis is fighting here, he confronts the leader of the rebellion, of the Dupe Underground. He comes face to face with himself. So which one's the dupe? Which is the regular? Neither has popped because neither has black eyes. And this is new information to us as well, because you can see that the leader of the underground version of Ekis, his face is half scarred. The other face he's kept hidden behind a mask all this time. So really great way to end it. Like I said, can't wait for it to come back and for us to find out more. Skin Police 2, Volume 2, coming fall 2025. Love this story. I love the art by Daniel Gattei. It reminds me of Juan Jose Reap in kind of the detail, and great action. Just bright colors from Jason Wordie. Just love the story. Haven't heard a lot of people talking about it. But just incredible. There's that last page. You can see just incredible art from Daniel Gattei, and what a way to end it. Just fantastic. So if you're so inclined, I do recommend checking out Skin Police. Again, with the last issue coming out, or the last issue for now, last issue of Volume 1 coming out last week. Maybe you want to wait for the trade to come out. I'm sure it'll be out before Volume 2. Like I said, everybody that I've heard talk about this book has sung its praises. But again, the shelves are crowded out there. It's hard to get noticed, and I haven't heard enough people talking about this book. But really incredible. Can't wait to find out what this is about. You can see here, Ekis looking at it's the file. I think dupe something suppress. So information about dupes, maybe dupe medical suppress. Like not. See, we have dupe military programming, dupe med suppression, med bribes. So yeah, there's definitely some conspiracy stuff going on. So looking forward to finding that. Here you can see the leader of the underground that is Ekis in some way, I guess, with his mask on. Like I said, we didn't know it was him because he's constantly had his face covered. So yeah, great book from Oni. Really recommend it. Yeah, I'm not even sure why I read it. I think I maybe read the solicit, and it sounded interesting, the Skin Police, the dupes, and what have you. So I took a chance on the first issue, and it hooked me right away. So definitely recommend checking it out. All right. Last book we're going to talk about in detail is maybe my favorite book of this week. It's called You Won't Feel a Thing, kind of similarly to Skin Police, actually. Everybody that I've heard talk about this book is just singing its praises, and rightfully so. It is so good. It's fantastic. I was really impressed with it. A real page turner. I couldn't put it down. It's written by Scott Snyder, and man, I've known Scott for a long time. I met Scott for the first time in 2011 when the New 52 started, Batman and what have you. And I think my first interview with him was 2012. And yeah, we've definitely established kind of a relationship over the years. And he's just so talented. I've never been a bigger fan. I've never really considered myself, especially early on, I wasn't a big fan of his Batman run. Like, I thought it was fine, it was okay, but it wasn't like, oh my god, this is the greatest thing ever. But as time has gone by, it's been his non-DC stuff that has drawn me in and made me a huge Scott Snyder fan, whether that be kind of the Dark Spaces stuff that he has done over at IDW, or the Comixology. The Comixology stuff was so great. That Dark Spaces dungeon was fantastic. And now he's doing things over at Distillery. I loved White Boat. Can't wait for that to come back. And now with Jock, we have You Won't Feel a Thing. And the book he did, what was it? Was it Feeling Evil? Book of Evil that he did, also with Jock, which is more of a prose piece. That was a fantastic book as well. But yeah, You Won't Feel a Thing. This is, oh my god, it's so good. It's basically the story of this detective who, very early on, his girlfriend was planning on going away from college. It's her last summer after their senior year. He was going to, stay in the town and not sure what he was going to do. She gets murdered. He's going to propose to her in hopes of her staying and not going away to college. He's going to propose to her. She gets killed. That leads him to becoming a detective, a homicide detective, and he ends up being a very decorated, very well respected law enforcement officer. Catches a bunch of serial killers, but really he's always trying to solve her crime. That's why he does it, right? And supposedly she was killed by this urban myth called the Chatterman. The reason he's called the Chatterman is because, as many serial killers do, he takes a trophy, the serial killer, and what it is he takes a tooth from who he's killed, and he makes a mask. Makes a mouth out of it on his mask, and it teeth clink together and chatter. That's why he's called the Chatterman. But nobody really believes this guy exists. And this detective, he's the only one who ever whoever came face to face with the serial killer. But he also has a brain tumor, and he's dying. And because of the brain tumor, he's also suffering from early onset dementia. I think he's only in his late 50s. So he's back in his hometown after this, career as a homicide detective and having caught all these serial killers. And he's in this sort of assisted living facility, and he has a nurse who helps him with memory exercises. That's how the book starts, where he's trying to remember things. And he's also trying to make amends with his kids, who, his son definitely doesn't have a good relationship with his son because he was never around. He was always working, trying to solve that murder of his girlfriend, which profoundly affected him. And so it's kind of a sad story. So with all that background, and his name's Jack Bernard, he's a very interesting character. You can tell how earnest he is, but again, you can tell how much he was affected by his girlfriend, his first love, being murdered, and he's the one that discovers the body, and there's all this horrific stuff. So while he's there, one of the director, I think it is, one of the people that works at the assisted living home, she is murdered in the same way that the Chatterman, by the Chatterman, and in the same way the Chatterman murders people. And it gives him one last chance at redemption in his mind, right? But he's got to do it before he completely loses his memory and his facilities and what have you, his faculties. And he's coming to realize that, again, having done this for so long, one of the things about serial killers is typically, I remember studying this in abnormal psychology, and I think it was Psych 301. It's the college I went to. It was, personality disorders and what have you. But this idea that, you have all the makings of a serial killer, and you do the things, torture animals, whatever it is that they do. But typically when they snap and they finally kill somebody for the first time, it's somebody they know. It's somebody that's not the cause of their psychosis, but in their mind, right? Like they're the target of whatever it is. Their obsession or their hatred or their fixation or whatever it is. That person is kind of an embodiment of that. So typically, when serial killers kill, their first victim is somebody that they know. And then when they do that for the first time, they get a rush out of it, or a sense of satisfaction or pleasure or whatever it might be. It kind of, unfortunately, for a lot of them, it's like this light bulb moment. Oh, sense of power or whatever it is that gets them off, that makes them, wanting to kill. And so then they go off, and then, they, a lot of times might just be, not sure why this isn't loading more pages for me to show you the incredible Jock art, but maybe it will as I'm talking. But anyway, first victim, someone they know, and then after that, they can just be random, right? Because they realize, oh, when I kill somebody, it makes me feel this, and they want to feel that again, right? Not unlike a junkie kind of chasing the next high. So with Jack Bernard being back in his hometown, I'm just gonna reload this page and see if it works. With Jack Bernard being back in his hometown, what he's realizing is, hey, maybe the Chatterman, maybe the serial killer, is from my hometown as well. And maybe his life is winding down just like my life is winding down, and that's why he's come back. And that's why he's killed again. So could it be that the Chatterman is somebody that he grew up with? Entirely possible. So that adds a whole nother dimension to the story. And again, here you can see his girlfriend when he discovered her, just horrific. So this, true crime has always fascinated me to some extent, and serial killers, because of my... here's him deciding he's going to solve the crime for the final time, or hopes it'll be the case he solves. But anyway, going back to what I was saying, my major in college was psychology. It's always fascinated me. I know a lot of people are fascinated by true crime. I come at it from a different point of view, not necessarily fascinated by the events. They can be traumatic and awful sometimes, but sort of interesting. for me, it's the human nature aspect of it, the psychological aspect of it, like why, what's wrong with them. Is there a way to fix people that are like that? Can we possibly figure out a way to quote unquote fix them, but before they do the thing, before they to borrow a term from the previous book we were talking about, Skin Police, before they pop. Like all that's the fascinating part to me. Can they be fixed, or can we figure out a way to predict? But be that as it may, it is compelling. It is interesting. You can see the gorgeous art, line, and color work from Jock. This really, really works. Jack Bernard is at the same time a sympathetic character, but also a character that you get the sense that he has skills, that he can solve this, even as he's fighting to kind of hold on to his memories and his ability to think rationally and what have you. And that also adds a sense of urgency to the story. And yeah, this is some of the best work Scott's done. Again, I've become such a huge fan, like beyond respecting him as a writer and a creator, and always thought that he was a fantastic storyteller. And then getting to know him and just what a great guy he is over the years. Like in the past, since he left DC after Dark Knight's Death Metal, and really kind of did that, what he calls a creative walkabout. Like since he did that and told so many different variety of stories, I have become a huge fan of him. I mean, I say I wasn't a fan before. I guess I was, because I read his stuff and I enjoyed it. But like it has been like times 10 since he's done so many different genres and really stretched himself as a creator. Noctera is fantastic that he did with Tony Daniel. The By a Thread series he does with his son Jack. I mean, I could just go on and on. Like his stuff is just amazing, and it's one of those situations where every time I read his latest thing, I'm like, oh, that's my favorite Scott Snyder thing. Oh no, then he comes out with something else. Oh, that's my favorite Scott Snyder thing. But man, this is up there. This and White Boat, along with Dark Spaces Dungeon, probably my top 3. And this is only the first issue of this. So I'm really looking forward to more. It's really fantastic. Again, if you're a fan of like true crime, I wouldn't go so far as to say, I mean, this is more true crime than it is horror, but there is a horrific aspect to it. I mean, the way the Chatterman looks, the way Jacques designed him is really creepy, and it's people being murdered, and that is kind of inherently scary. So yeah, this is definitely my book of the week. It's part of the reason that even though this is coming out a week late, I definitely wanted to get it out and talk about it. You won't feel a thing. Hopefully you can still find a copy. I think it did sell out, so there should be second printings coming at some point. So if you are so inclined, I definitely recommend you guys checking it out. So a few of the other books that came out last week, you have G.I. Joe number 3. That book has been okay, but I haven't been enjoying it as much as most, and I'm not sure I can put my finger on why. Part of the reason I was hoping Rocky would be able to join me, because maybe he would want to talk about it, and he could give me some insight into what I'm missing. I'm enjoying it, but I was so excited for the Energon universe, and G.I. Joe, like the main series, and anxiously anticipating it, and it's probably been my least favorite title of all. Like I thought the the Scarlet and the Destro and the Duke and the Cobra Commander series, I enjoyed all of those more. I'm enjoying Transformers more than G.I. Joe. I'm enjoying Void Rivals more than G.I. Joe. I don't know, it's just not landing for me, and I'm not sure why. Anyway, also Walking Dead Deluxe is up to issue number 105. Over in the Spawn universe, we have the Scorch number 37. Witchblade starts its second arc with number 7, written by Marguerite Bennett. That's been a fantastic book as well. Really, really enjoying that. FML number 3 from Kelly Sue DeConnick was out last week, as well as The Oddly Pedestrian Life of Christopher Chaos. That's up to issue 15 from writer James Tynion. Also, Standstill number 6. I talked about it on the podcast. Andrew C. Robinson lost his house in the Altadena fire. This is his book that he does along with Lee Lowridge, so definitely can support Andrew by picking that up. That's a fantastic book about time travel and revenge and what have you. It's a different artist taking over for Andrew in this particular issue, because Andrew has been working on 7. But yeah, definitely recommend that. You can go listen to the interview I did with Lee and Andrew if you want to learn more about Stand Still. That's a great book also. And I think that's it. Yeah, that does it. So again, great week of independent books last week. Apologies that I didn't get it out in a timely manner. But yeah, this week's Indie Spotlight will actually come out the week that the books came out. So it should be out late on Wednesday. And this is probably going out Wednesday as well. So you get 2 Indie Spotlights for the price of 1 this week. And hopefully we'll be back on the regular schedule next week. So appreciate you all joining me as always. And we'll talk to you next time.